It is a Thursday morning and you cannot make a decision. Not a difficult one, a simple one. You are standing in the kitchen holding your phone looking at two options, a job offer you have been considering for 3 weeks, a conversation you have been meaning to start, and nothing happens. Your mind approaches it and then it does not, like a car that reaches an intersection and idles. The engine is fine, the road is clear, nothing comes. You have been standing here for 11 minutes. You know this because the clock on the microwave is right there and you have been watching it and the minutes are moving and you are not. You open your notebook. The leather-covered one you have carried for 3 years, the one with your handwriting in it going back to a version of you that felt further away with every month. And you do not write down what you decide. You write down Thursday because you have started doing that, logging the day of the week alongside every decision you make, every real one, every one that costs you something. You started doing it because something bothered you, a small thing, and almost nothing. Go back to before you noticed. Back to when Tuesday was just the second worst day of the week. You started the notebook in January, not as a journal, you are not the journal type, but as a tracker. A record of where your time went, because you had started suspecting that you were spending it wrong without being able to say exactly how. The notebook was $9 at the drugstore. Black cover, cream pages, and elastic closure that had started to lose its tension by March. You kept it on the left side of your desk, next to the white ceramic mug that you had been using every morning for 2 years, the one with the small chip on the handle that you always put facing away from you before you sat down. Small rituals, the kind that accumulate without you designing them. You logged everything, mornings, afternoons, what you ate, what you worked on, when you felt clear and when you felt slow. It was not compulsive, it was practical. You had a project you were trying to finish, a living situation you were trying to stabilize, a few relationships you were quietly deciding whether to keep. There was a lot to track. The notebook made it feel manageable. Your handwriting in January is neat and consistent. 1 line per entry, date in the margin, task or decision in the center column, outcome in a narrow strip on the right. A system that made sense. A system you are still using now. The notebook is on the desk in front of you, open to today's date, and today is Thursday and the center column is empty. It was sometime in April the 14th, which was a Tuesday, that you applied for a position you had been circling for months. You wrote it in the center column that evening, applied, felt right. You remember the decision coming quickly, cleanly, without the friction that usually made things like that slow. You remember thinking, good day. You did not think about the day of the week. Then in April again, the 28th, you had the conversation with your sister that you had been deferring since February. Hard conversation, one that needed to happen. It happened on a Tuesday evening and it went better than you expected, and you wrote, said the thing, good, you noted the date, you moved on. It was in late May, reviewing old entries for something unrelated that you first saw it, not a pattern yet. Just a coincidence, 3 meaningful entries in a row, all on Tuesdays, the job application, the conversation, and a third, a financial decision you had been sitting on since winter, made finally on a Tuesday afternoon. 3 for 3, you told yourself, confirmation bias. You are looking for it now, so you are finding it. This is how patterns work when they are not real patterns. Your brain is a meaning-making machine and it was doing its job. You closed the notebook. You did not think about it again for 9 days. Then you thought about it again, not because something new happened, because the not thinking about it had been effortful and you noticed the effort, and the effort meant something was still there waiting. You could stop tracking. Close the notebook, buy a new one, start fresh without the data sitting there. That was one option, clean, practical, the kind of thing a person does when they have been recording their own life in enough detail to see things they cannot unsee, or you could go back and verify, not obsessively, just map it. Pull every meaningful entry from January forward and write down the day of the week beside it and see what you actually had. Either the pattern was real or it was not. Either way, you would know. You chose to verify. You told yourself it was because not knowing was worse than knowing. This was true. It was also true that you had already decided before you articulated the options. You had decided the moment you admitted the effort of not thinking about it. You spent one Sunday afternoon going through every entry. You wrote the day of the week in pencil in a new column at the far left margin. You did not finish that afternoon. You came back to it twice during the week. What you found by the end of Wednesday was every meaningful decision from January through June was logged on a Tuesday. Not most of them, not an unusual number, every single one. You stopped tracking new decisions, not as a choice, you just stopped. You tried to break it, not grandly, just normally. You are a person who makes decisions, and you made yourself make one on a Wednesday, small thing, a dentist appointment you had been putting off. You booked it on a Wednesday morning quickly before you could register the day. You wrote it in the center column, booked dentist, Wednesday. You felt something like relief, evidence. You had interrupted the pattern and the world had not collapsed, and the appointment was scheduled for the following Thursday. You canceled the appointment the following Tuesday morning and rebooked it for a Thursday. You did not decide to do that. You noticed it had been done. You checked your phone's call log. Tuesday 9:17 a.m. outgoing. You remembered picking up your phone. You did not remember the decision to cancel and rebook. You remembered it less like choosing and more like completing something that had already been in motion. 2 weeks later, you almost signed a lease renewal. Your landlord had sent it on a Monday and you had been ready to sign it, pen in hand, lease on the table, and something stopped you, not fear, not doubt, just a resistance you could not locate, quiet and total, like reaching a wall in a dark room. You set the pen down, you went to bed. Tuesday morning you signed. The pattern was not a tendency, it was not a preference. It was a rule that you were following without having agreed to it. Something was operating with intention, and you do not know yet if the something is outside you or if it is you. What does it want? You spent a weekend reading about decision fatigue, circadian rhythms, and what some researchers call temporal framing bias, the tendency for humans to assign more weight to certain recurring time markers without awareness. There is a real literature on it, studies involving weekly calendars and recurring cognitive load patterns. The idea that certain days of the week accumulate psychological associations over time, and those associations shape behavior in ways the person cannot self-report. It was a reasonable explanation. It was the kind of explanation a careful, intelligent person would find. Tuesday had probably been early in your adult life, the day that felt least pressured, past the dread of Monday, before the anxiety of week's end. Your brain had rooted important decisions there the way water finds low ground. You had been building this habit for years without noticing it, and the notebook had finally made it visible. That was all. You felt the relief of that, real relief, the kind that comes with a full exhale. You made a cup of tea and sat with it and thought. You tracked yourself well enough to see a pattern most people never see. That is not frightening, that is clarity. Then, because you are thorough, you went back to the first notebook. The one from 3 years ago. The one that predates this habit tracker by 18 months, the older notebook, the ordinary journal you had kept sporadically before you had a system. You pulled entries from that year at random, cross-referenced the dates with a calendar app. You did not expect to find anything. The first 5 meaningful entries you checked were all Tuesday. You checked 9 more, 8 of them were Tuesday. One was a Monday, and when you looked at that entry, you saw that what you had logged as a decision was actually the completion of something decided the Tuesday before. The temporal framing explanation required you to have built the habit consciously over time through repeated behavior that eventually became automatic. But the older notebook predated the habit tracker by a year and a half. You were not tracking then, you were not watching, you could not have been reinforcing a pattern you did not know you were forming. The pattern predates your awareness of it. You were not the one who started it. Here is what you know now. Something in you or operating through you has been routing meaningful decisions to Tuesdays for at least 3 years, possibly longer if the older notebooks confirm it, which you have not checked yet because you are not ready to check. The routing is not random, it is not preference. It is structural, consistent, and older than your awareness of it. You have 2 options, you can follow it. Except that something in you, call it pattern, call it architecture, call it whatever, does not frighten you, has been operating with more consistency than your conscious mind, and simply let it run. Make your decisions on Tuesdays, stop fighting the calendar. The pattern has not, as far as you can tell, led you wrong. The job you applied for was right. The conversation with your sister needed to happen. The lease renewal was fine. Maybe the mechanism, whatever it is not malevolent. Maybe it is just precise. The cost of this path, you give up the belief that you are deciding, not the actions, the authorship. Every Tuesday from now on, you will not know if you chose or if something chose through you, or you can break it. Deliberately, intentionally, on a day that is not Tuesday, force yourself to make a decision that counts, that costs, that is real by every measure. Prove that you can. Prove the pattern is a pattern and not a constraint. The cost of this path, you may find out that you cannot. Tuesday is 3 days away. You open the notebook. Today is Friday and the center column is empty, and you pick up the pen and you think, I will decide now. I will do it now on a Friday and I will write it down and it will be done. You hold the pen, the page does not fill, you put the pen down. On Tuesday morning you get up at 6:40 and make coffee and sit at the desk and open the notebook. You write down the decision. The job offer, the one you have been holding for 3 weeks, the one where you have known the answer since the second week but could not make it land. You write, accept the offer, Tuesday, the ink dries, the decision is there, solid and done, and it feels the way decisions are supposed to feel, final, yours, real. You send the email, you close the laptop. You sit for a long time with the coffee going cold beside you and the notebook open in front of you. The ceramic mug is on the left side of the desk. The chip on the handle is facing away from you. The elastic on the notebook's cover is loose from 3 years of use. What is different now is this: you do not know if you made that decision or if Tuesday made it for you, or if the difference between those two things is as large as it used to feel. The decision is correct, you are certain of that. The job is the right move and you know it, and you knew it on the second week, and the answer has not changed. But between the second week and this Tuesday morning, there was a Friday and a pen that would not move. You had believed, without examining the belief, that deciding meant initiating. That you were the one who began the motion. You are not sure you believe that anymore. What it costs you is not the decision, it is that. Here is what you see now from the outside of it. In April, when you applied for the job and felt the decision come quickly and cleanly, you called it a good day. It was a Tuesday. You were not driving the clarity. You were arriving at a time when whatever runs the pattern was ready. In May, when you had the conversation with your sister and it went better than expected, you credited the preparation. The 2 months of deferring, the choosing the right moment. The moment was a Tuesday. It was not you who chose the moment. The moment was already chosen. When you stood in the kitchen 2 weeks ago holding your phone, unable to make the job offer land, that was a Thursday, not a bad day, not the wrong emotional state, just not Tuesday. The engine was on, the road was clear. You were not the driver, you do not know when it started. The oldest notebook you have is 3 years old and the pattern is already there, before the habit tracker, before the system, before you had any mechanism for noticing. The Tuesday before you began watching, you do not know if it is you, some mechanism built into how you move through time that you cannot access consciously and cannot override. You do not know if it is something else. The not knowing is not temporary. It is not a gap that more information will close. You have already checked the oldest record you have and the pattern was already running. You were not the one who started it. That is who you are now, a person who makes the right decisions on Tuesdays and on other days holds a pen above an empty page and cannot honestly tell you which one is the real you. Tomorrow is Wednesday. The notebook is on the desk, center column empty. The pen is where you left it, parallel to the page, the way you always leave it, the way you have always left it, a habit so old you cannot remember learning it. The chip on the mug handle is facing away from you. You did not decide to do any of that. You look at the calendar. 7 days to Tuesday, you are going to wait. You are not sure if that is a decision, you noticed. Most people never map it, never sit still long enough to let the pattern show itself. But noticing is not the same as understanding, and understanding is not the same as being free. Subscribe. The next story starts the moment you stop looking for an explanation and starts looking for a structure instead.